Welcome back everyone to this lecture on output formats for BARD. A big part of prompt engineering is being able to explain what format you actually want the output in. As you become a BARD user, you need to make sure you keep in mind that BARD can actually be very flexible in the different formats it can output to, especially when combined with clear instructions and directions on what you want and don't want in the output. Let's explore this in further detail. All right, so here I am back in BARD. Let me start a new chat here, and let's begin with the earlier prompt we were using, such as creating a list of the top 10 most populous cities in the United States. Now remember, with no further clarification, direction, or instruction on what exactly I want my output to look like, it's always going to tend to be more conversational, and you don't really know what could be included in the output. So for example here, I get a little bit of a prefix saying, here's the top 10, and then I do get a list, but it actually also includes URLs based off the Google search it did to try to get to the most up-to-date information. And there's also no real unity or unifying theme between these links. Some of them are Wikipedia, but other ones are towards official government websites like the US Embassy. Other ones look like a Pinterest link, Wikipedia, etc. So what I want to do is make sure that this is output in the format I want. For example, I can be more specific and say, return the results in a markdown table format. And if you're not familiar with Markdown, it's basically just a formatting language that most computers or most software is familiar with that allows the browser to display information in something that looks like a table. So here we can actually see a very clear table that includes information like the rank, city, population, and state. And depending on how exactly you ask this, you may also get another column here with a URL, etc. And again, you want to combine directions on output formats with directions on content. Note that I'm still getting information like a little appendix here saying this is based on the latest estimates from various sources. It's also giving me a little title for this. But what's really cool is when you start getting specific to formatting, and we will explore this later on with Google Workspaces, you can do things like export this information to Sheets. So when I click on that, that's going to end up taking that markdown table data and then create a new spreadsheet with it, which I can then open in Sheets. And now I can see here, I have my sheet information with the rank, city, population, and state. And remember, you can always say things like, if you want to get rid of this note because maybe you want to copy this entire table, what I can do is always edit this and just be more clear in my directions. For example, I can say the table should also include a column for geographic size, and let's say meters squared. And I can also say, do not provide anything else beyond the table. I'll go ahead and click update. And so you can see here, it ended up adding that area column. Now, meter squared, for the size of the city, that probably doesn't make too much sense. I'm glad it actually chose kilometers squared. That makes more sense. And we can see here, we're starting to edit the table. But what's really cool is you no longer get that extra appendix of, hey, no, this information comes from various sources, etc. So remember to combine this idea of asking for specific output formats and then adding in directions or instructions to get it tuned in to exactly what you want. Remember, you're not just limited to things like markdown tables. Any format you can think of, you should explore it and see if BARD is capable of outputting it for you. For example, let's imagine we're working with a developer on our team, and the developer needs this information, but they need it in a JSON output because that's what their program can read. We can always try to let BARD output this in the format we want. For example, instead of saying create a list of the top 10 most populous cities, I'm going to say create a JSON output of the top 10 most populous cities. Then I'll say again, return the results in a, and then to be very specific here, we'll say JSON key value pair store. And then we will basically clarify that instead of the table, we'll also say the JSON should include a value for geographic size, and here I'll say actually km for kilometers squared, and then we'll say do not provide anything else beyond the JSON. All right, so basically I can swap in for different output formats. So instead of a markdown table, now I'm asking for JSON. And you can see here, it starts building out that JSON output. And I can also view other drafts. Notice this one, it's kind of a little more like a formatted piece of text. I can check out draft number 2 to see if Bard itself was able to recognize this as correctly formatted JSON, in which case I can directly come here, and when it comes to code, the code shows up in different blocks, and there's 2 ways of copying this. I can hit these 3 dots to copy everything, including the notes down here, or I can just click copy here to copy only what's in the code block. We're going to discuss code in a lot more detail later on in a section on coding, but remember to utilize the drafts as well. And remember our hint that you can always try to edit your prompt further until the drafts are roughly all the same. So the based on the fact that only one of these drafts is recognizing this as official JSON probably means that I can work on this prompt a little better until all the drafts are giving me some JSON. Okay, that's it for this lecture. We'll see you at the next one.